Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burl Brew. There's a big basketball game coming up in about 40 minutes as the Kentucky Wildcats are getting ready to take on the Florida Gators in Gainesville. My name is Andrew Stefaniak. That's Carson Nash, and we host the Wildcats Today Podcast. Thanks, everybody, for being here today. Getting straight into this game, obviously, Florida is one of the hottest teams in college basketball right now. They've won 4 straight games by a wide margin. 27.25 is the margin of victory over the last 4 games for the Florida Gators. And that's wins over Alabama, A&M, Georgia, and South Carolina. 3 of those 4 games on the road. So the Gators are hot right now after that loss to Auburn at home. They kind of got things figured out. And when breaking down this game, the first thing you have to get into is the front court of the Florida Gators.
Yeah, 100%. Their front court is absolutely dominant. They score 46.3 points per game from 2, which is 54% of their points. Chinyelu grabs every rebound possible. Thomas Howe, he's an athletic big who can beat you any way possible. He can put the ball on the ground. He can shoot. He can do everything. And then Alex Condon's kind of their typical 5, kind of like a Chinyelu. Probably a little more skilled than Chinyelu. But look for this front court to be dominant for Florida. And we're going to have to have a really big game from Kentucky's bigs to kind of combat that.
I mean, the reality is they start 3 centers. I mean, Chinyelu, Howe, and Condon, they basically start 3 5s. Howe's more of an athletic. You could argue he's a stretch 4 to a 5. Condon, you could make the same argument. Chinyelu is a straight center, straight 5. But at the end of the day, this is the best front court in college basketball. And you're going to see Kentucky's bigs play physical, and the number one guy for that argument is Malachi Moreno. Obviously, the Kentucky native. There have been the arguments that he has had struggles physicality-wise early in the season. He's getting better on that front of late and playing good basketball for this team when it matters the most. So Malachi Moreno is the guy that we're going to need to see play well against Chinyelu. He'll be down there trying to keep Florida's version of Oscar Tshiebwe off of the glass. But the biggest debate within this game is the matchup for who's going to guard Thomas Howe. Has a chance to win SEC Player of the Year. He's up there with Otega Oweh, Darius Acuff, and some other players for that conversation. And Carson, I mean, it's been a debate. We posted on our social media earlier in the week. How is Kentucky going to take a stab at trying to defend Thomas Howe?
Yeah, I look for Kentucky to go to Otega Oweh to guard Thomas Howe. I think he did a decent job on Nate Ament against Tennessee, and Nate's about 6'10", same height as Howe. So I look for Otega to kind of take on that challenge because we're low on depth. I mean, I would love to go out here and have Cam Williams to kind of guard Howe, but we're low on depth. We kind of need to make our strengths and play small and play fast, and that's how we've been winning recently. But I do like Otega on Howe tonight.
And the reality, breaking down Thomas Howe and the way he plays the game and the way Florida plays, we just said they start a 6'9", 6'10", and 6'11" player. There is not a fair answer for Kentucky to defend the Gators down low in this game. Obviously, when you look, but you also, I don't think that the answer is starting like Mo D at the 3, because obviously he's not going to be able to provide a ton of offense. Like, you can make the argument, well, why don't we put Mo D at the 3, Yelovich at the 4, and Moreno at the 5, or find a way to mix BG in that. But I just don't think you want to try and play into Florida's game. We don't want to try and beat Florida at their game. We want to try and beat Florida with Kentucky's game, which is not what they're trying to do. So at the end of the day, we're going to have to see Otega Oweh. Some folks have said Colin Chandler. That it's going to be a mismatch regardless. Whoever's going to be out there, Thomas Howe is going to be able to shoot the 3 as much as he wants to. Every shot he's going to take from deep is going to be open because he's 6'9", going to be shooting over a 6'5" or 6'4" guard. So there's going to be a mismatch there, but Kentucky's going to just try and have to find the best way possible to make up for it. And if it is Otega guarding Thomas Howe, every time he tries to put the basketball on the floor, you've got to try and take it away from him.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. Kentucky needs to play to our strengths, which means our guards need to outplay their guards by a wide margin to limit the impact of their bigs throughout the game. So that means Otega needs to step up and have a good game. Aberdeen needs to keep playing turnover less basketball. And then you got to have Colin Chandler knocking down threes, especially late in the game when you need another clutch shot. You got to have your guys firing on all cylinders.
I mean, this is a basketball game that I don't think anybody in the world thinks the Cats are going to win. I mean, depending on where you look, the spread is plus 13.5 for Kentucky. The money line on FanDuel, other places, is like plus 650, plus 700. Nobody thinks Kentucky's going to go into Gainesville and win this game. But it reminds me a little bit of the Arkansas game. I think Florida's a better team than Arkansas, but I don't think anybody thought that Kentucky was going to go in and beat Arkansas. And what Kentucky did was put together their best two halves of basketball this season. Everybody was concerned about being down by a lot at half against the Razorbacks, and the Cats were able to find a way to have a lead at the break. So I think that it's the same thing. If you look and Kentucky's down 10 points in the first 8 minutes of this ball game, I think you can pretty much just write it off. But if the Cats are able to, stay within striking distance or have a lead at the break, we know what Mark Pope's second half adjustments look like.
Yeah, 100%. You got to come out and have a fast start. I think looking back on the season, this is easily the hardest game to date. So you're going to have to be firing all cylinders. That means coming out hot. You have to start out hot because if Florida builds a decent lead, those bigs are going to make it near impossible for you to come back and have a chance in this game.
Now, and you talked about it, the guards for the Gators, you got Boogie Fland, obviously a guy who was committed to Cal, follows Cal to Arkansas, played for the Razorbacks last year, then transfers to Florida after, I'd say, solid freshman year. I wouldn't say great. He dealt with injuries all year. And obviously the other guard there is Xavier Lee, transferred from Princeton, a guy that Kentucky was interested in. And we all had the questions, will his game translate from the Ivy League to the SEC? And some games it looks like it hasn't. Some games it looks like it has. But one way to chop this up, very simple, if the Florida guards play well and are efficient from the field, Kentucky's not going to be able to compete in this game because we know we're going to struggle down low. And if we struggle down low and the guards are playing well, making their shots, it's going to be incredibly difficult for Mark Pope's team to pull this off.
That's why, too, the biggest keys for me in this game are perimeter scoring on our side. We need to knock down threes tonight to kind of build that lead. They said 54% of their points come from two. So if we can kind of regulate that with our threes, that would be huge. And then also three-point defense. Like he said, Boogie Fland, can't let him get hot. Xavier Lee doesn't really get hot, but you definitely can't let him get hot. And then Urban Clavzar on the bench, he's their kind of sharpshooter, sniper. He's a little bit like Colin Chandler in that sense. He's just not as athletic.
Yeah, Clavzar is an interesting player because he obviously comes off the bench for the Gators and almost in a similar kind of role that we saw Denzel Aberdeen have last season for the Gators, the six-man important player. In games where Clavzar's playing well, he's going to play more. I mean, if he's out playing Lee, if he's out playing Fland, he's going to be out on the floor more than those guys. So you do not want him to come in and get hot because he is their best three-point shooter. He's going to come off the bench and he's going to play well, I think. So you got to limit him. You got to get a handout on those shooters. But obviously, Carson, I think the point that we haven't talked about yet today, which is probably the most important part of this game, and it coincides with talking about the bigs for the Gators, but is the rebounding margin. Florida is the best rebounding team in college basketball by a wide margin. They lead college basketball in total rebounds. They lead college basketball in offensive rebounds, and they're top 5 in defensive rebounds. This team is dominant on the glass, and if Kentucky gets dominated down low when it comes to rebounds, it's going to be hard to win. I talk about Florida as a similar team to Tennessee in the aspect that Tennessee was dominant on the glass, especially against us. They killed us on the boards on Saturday. Obviously, Kentucky still found a way to win that game. But if Kentucky gets dominated down low, I don't think you're going to see them win this game because Florida's offense is significantly better than Tennessee's.
Yeah, you even called them a Gucci brand, Tennessee, because their offense is so much better. But like we were saying, the hot start has to happen because with Tennessee, they would go on scoring droughts, and Florida's not going to go on scoring droughts. They're going to keep the gas on the floor, and so it's going to be tough for us to come back if we get down early in this game. So gotta start hot.
Now, the one thing I will say about if Kentucky does go down in this game, Florida is not an elite three-point shooting team. They're shooting right around 29% from three. Not to say they don't have guys that can make threes. They do. Clavzar can shoot. Fland can get hot. Xavier Lee can get hot. They got some guys that can shoot it. And obviously, frankly, my number one concern from deep for the Gators is probably Thomas Howe. As we said, he's not really going to have much more than a hand in his face, knowing that the guy guarding him is probably going to be significantly shorter than he is. So three-point shooting is a little bit of a concern in this game, but at the same time, I don't think three-point shooting is going to end up being the difference in this one for the Gators and the Cats.
Yeah, for me, Florida's ranked 20th in scoring offense, which means they're pretty dang good offense, but they're just 148th in effective field goal percentage, which means most of their points are coming from two, like we said. But that shows that they're not a very good three-point scoring team, and that's somewhere where we can take advantage of, especially if we're making shots challenging on them early in the game.
And the other point that we have yet to bring up today is the fact that if Kentucky wins today, they're in first place in the SEC. And I think if you'd have told Carson and I after that painful loss to the Missouri Tigers in Rupp Arena, and Carson would say, hey, Andrew, if Kentucky beats Florida on the road on Valentine's Day, the Cats are going to be in first place in the SEC, I think I'd have laughed at you. And it's the spot we're in. You win 8 of your last 9 games in this tough conference, you're going to be in a position to do something special. And through all the adversity this basketball team has gone through, the losses, the injuries, the blowout losses, the struggles in the first half, we're in a spot right now where if Kentucky beats the hottest team in the nation on the road, they're atop one of the better conferences in college hoops. So, I mean, obviously everybody likes Florida today. The spread tells you that. The money line tells you that. But at the end of the day, Mark Pope and his team understand what this game means, and they're going to be there looking for the win.
Yeah, 100%. Like I already, like I said, the biggest game of the season is today, and luckily it's on Valentine's Day. It's going to be awesome, but it goes back to a time where Kentucky and Florida, we lost that rivalry a little bit recently because Kentucky hasn't been up to par and Florida's been a lot better than us recently. But it's good to finally have this game for number one in the SEC again. I remember times when I was younger with Scotty Wilbekin and Patrick Young, how annoying Florida was every time we played them. But it's going to be a fun day today.
Definitely. And, we haven't talked about him a ton yet, but one of the guys that I'm going to be paying attention to today, a guy that if anybody wants a juicy bet on FanDuel to score 20 points, is Denzel Aberdeen in his return to play against the Florida Gators. Obviously, the team he played for last year, won a national championship with, had really the championship ceiling play on defense in that win over Houston for the Gators. I think he's going to hear a lot of boos today, Carson. I think you can agree with me on that. I don't think it's going to be a warm welcome.
No.
You don't often see a sixth man that was coming off the bench who's expected to be one of the better guards for a team the next year leave to go to a new school, especially in the same conference. So I do not expect a warm welcome for Mr. Aberdeen today, but he seems like the type of guy that I think he's going to respond well to that. So I think he scores 20 tonight.
Yeah, I'm excited for Aberdeen's homecoming. I hope he goes in there and plays the villain role today. Mike had a good question in the chat. How many points combined between Aberdeen, Chandler, and Ortega do you think we need for the best chance of winning?
Between those three guys, between Aberdeen, Chandler, and Oway, oh, man, that's tough. I'd say I think 50 is a pretty solid answer. I mean, to me, that like 15 and 15 and 20.
Yeah.
I kind of think that Aberdeen and Oway are going to combine for 40 today.
Yeah.
And I think Chandler's going to give you a little over 10. I kind of think if they combine for 55, I think the Cats are going to win this game. But, we haven't really gone over it yet. But Florida, go check the King Palm rankings. Their defense, is really, really good. So it's going to be tough to do. But at the end of the day, in a game where we thought it'd be tough to score against Tennessee, the Cats put up 74 points. Obviously, we saw Oway have a good game. So I'm going to say 55, but I think if you tell me 50, we got a shot, but I like 55 to answer. What about you, Bruce?
Yeah, I was right around that same margin. I would I think 60 you have the win for sure, but 55 sounds great to me as well. But you have to have the best production from those three guys tonight because, like I said earlier, the guards have to outplay Florida's guards to take away the big advantage that Florida has down low. So, huge night for Aberdeen, Ortega, and Colin.
Yeah, I mean, if they have to play well because, I mean, I don't think you're going to see a big game from Moreno when it comes to scoring. Personally, I think that it's going to be tough for him down low. I mean, he's going to get some cleanups and some dunks. I could see him scoring 8 points, but I don't think you're going to look up and see Moreno having double digits in this game. If he does, it'd be awesome. I'll probably pick him to be my MVP today. But I think another key aspect in this game is Andre Jelovich. I mean, talk about spreading the floor and having a guy that can maybe get you some open looks. Jelovich has been in the first 5 minutes of games, Jelovich has been one of our better players. I don't even hate the idea of taking Jelovich's first basket today, Mr. Carter. But I think that Jelovich needs to play well. We're going to need some outside scoring. He's a 6'10" guy who's starting to shoot the ball better from deep. If he can get hot from three, that would be a big help to pulling off this, what we have to call a massive upset today.
Yeah, 100%. What was his defensive rebound percentage? Wasn't it 20?
It's like 19.7. It's the best on the team.
Yeah, exactly. So that's going to be a huge factor in tonight's game because, of course, the Florida Gators are easily the best rebounding team in the country. So hopefully Jelovich can provide that physicality and hopefully that spark on offense, knocking down a couple threes, hopefully early in the game to get us going.
Yeah, I think Jelovich on both ends of the floor. I mean, obviously he's liable to get beat here and there defensively, but he also is liable to lock some folks up, and he's definitely fluid in that aspect. You never know what kind of defensive performance you're going to get out of him, but need to see a big game from Jelovich. And I think a big debate when heading into this ball game is at the four. I mean, do you see this being more of a Mo Diabate, or do you see this being more of an Andre Jelovich game?
Yeah, I definitely think I think it's an Andre Jelovich game. I think Florida has the major size advantage. I just think Modi's really good and physical, but I also like Mo Diabate coming off the bench and providing that physicality off the bench. But I think Andre just provides too much offense to leave him out in a game like this when you're going to need all hands on deck.
Definitely. And you know, when talking about Mo Diabate, obviously all season long playing at the four for Kentucky, I'd say probably 9 times out of 10 this year, he's been the smaller guy based on who he's guarding. But he is one of the most skilled rebounders, and not based off of his size. Obviously, he's only 6'7", but he is just an incredible rebounder when it comes to finding where the ball is going to come off of the rim or the glass. He's going to be there. A great example of that is the rebound he got off of the Colin Chandler missed free throw. He was not in a position where he should have gotten that board against Tennessee on Saturday, but he found a way to get that board and really seal the game for the Cats after Aberdeen nailed those 2 free throws. So Diabate is going to play a role. Obviously, you're going to see both Mo Diabate and Andre Jelovich a lot in this ball game. But, you know, Mo Diabate is just not the elite offensive guy that Jelovich can be. I don't think it's fair to say that Jelovich is fully developed into that player yet, but I think it's fair to say that he could develop into that player. And, hey, it'd be a great night tonight to see him start to do that.
Yeah, 100%. Going back on that, I think, like we said, you're going to need everything from Brandon Garrison, Mo Diabate, Malachi Moreno, Andre Jelovich. You're going to need everything you got out of those guys because the Florida front court is the best front court in the nation, and they're going to try to draw fouls on you. And so that depth is going to have to play a part and play good today for us to go in there and win.
Without question. And, you know, obviously, I still keep coming back to Thomas Howell. I just think that if he has 25 points and it's efficient, I just think it's going to be tough for the Cats to win this game. He's just so talented, and it's going to be hard to guard. Obviously, every game that he's playing in, more than likely, his matchup is a smaller guy, which gives him advantage every night because of the way the Gators start 3, taller guys. Want to see Otega Owen. I said it earlier, but it's really important. Every time he puts the ball on the ground. Now, that's not to say that Howe is not a skilled ball handler. He is a skilled ball handler. He can take care of the basketball, but every time he puts that thing on the floor, we have got to see Otega Owe try and take it from him.
Yeah, 100%. But to me, I think Howell's going to get his regardless. So to me, I think limiting Boogie Fland and Xavier Lee, like we said, are the 2 biggest things because making the shots harder on Howe is going to be key. And then he's going to have to pass it to them, and they're going to have to make shots. And if they make shots, then it's going to be a long day for us. But if they're inefficient, we can get some perimeter defense going on those guys, then it should be good for the Cats.
And the other thing we have to remember is Mark Pope has a knack for winning these top 15 games. I mean, he was absolutely incredible last season. Yeah, I mean, last year he just loved to win top 15 games, some of those on the road, and want to see Coach Pope have that fire. You know, Carson and I have kind of griped about Coach Pope's, intensity pregame. But at the end of the day, I think that he, in that CBS show preview that they're going to be doing a CBS television program for this basketball team. I think it comes out in April. And we saw Coach Pope kind of have that intensity that we didn't think that he had. So to me, I think he needs to light a fire under his team's behind in this game, because it's an important one. The Cats have a tough stretch of 7 games to finish this season. You got the Gators twice, a ranked Vandy team. You got to go to A&M, to Auburn. It is not going to be easy for the Cats down the stretch. And if you win this game to start off that tough 7-game stretch, I think it's going to go a long way for this team to finish out strong.
Yeah, 100%. It puts you in the best position to finish the SEC at the top at the end of the season. So, I mean, it's a big game, and I've been excited about it all week. But I think the Cats are going to lock in and play some good defense, and Florida's not going to get out in transition as much, and we're going to limit those bigs, and then Boogie Flynn and Xavier aren't going to have the day. I think this team, ever since that shot from Malachi Moreno went in at LSU, something changed for this team, and I think they're going to prove that today.
I got a question for you before we get to our predictions for this game, Carson. I'm going to give you 4 players that you can't answer, okay? Moreno, Ortega, Denzel, and Colin Chandler. Give me a player not of those 4 players that is going to be a big difference maker for the Cats today.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with. Yeah, I'm gonna ride with Andre Yelovich. I think Yelovich can have a big impact in today's game. He's got the size to go height for height with all the Florida players. So it's going to be exciting to see how he goes with these guys, because they're all older, they're all more physical. So it'd be interesting to see how he plays today. But I'm excited for him. He could definitely make a difference with his offense. And that rebound percentage only helps us when it comes to limiting Florida's offensive rebounding.
We talked about it earlier, but I think that Yelovich, we want him to become the player that we know he can be. I think every time he steps on the floor, he kind of inches closer and closer and closer to that, but he hasn't quite gotten there yet. This will be an incredible game for a random Yelovich 18-point game. I mean, I'm not saying I think that's going to happen. I find it unlikely. But if it were to happen, it would really give Kentucky a chance to pull off this upset. I'm going to be honest, not to be boring, but that's the player I would have said too. I think that Yelovich is the guy that needs to step up and have a good one for Mark Pope's team to pull off the upset today.
Yeah, I agree, but I also think Colin Chandler has to continue to up his game and kind of play himself into that star role. We started to see him emerge a couple games ago, and he's only been getting better each game. So I look for Colin to keep being aggressive, keep being confident, and that's only going to help the Cats win today.
We both predicted Colin Chandler to be the second leading scorer behind Owe the rest of the way. I think we did that 4 or 5 games ago, maybe less. But I think he's on pace to get that done. So I really want to see him step up and have a good one tonight. I mean, what if you randomly got 20 from Owe, Aberdeen, and Chandler in this game? If that happens, I think the Cats for sure win. Don't see it happening, but that would be an easy path for Kentucky to walk away with the win in this ball game. So you ready to do predictions and call it a day here?
Yeah.
So last time we were here doing a preview for the game, it was the matchup with Arkansas, and I started off our predictions by picking the Arkansas Razorbacks, and Carson piggybacked off that and picked the Cats to win, and obviously the Kentucky pulled off the upset. So we're going to do the same thing today. Carson, I'm going to take Florida.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about movie scripts and how Kentucky's kind of writing a movie. And I think this is one of the biggest scenes of their movie today. So I think the Cats go down to Gainesville and Aberdeen's homecoming, and they go shock the Gators down at home. 71-70, Kentucky wins, and we're first place in the SEC once again.
Love it. Well, hope everybody enjoys the game today. Hope everyone's having a great Valentine's Day. Thank you all so much for being here. Enjoy some beer. Enjoy the ball game. We're the Wildcats Today Podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye-bye.